Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 374 of Hooked on Sports here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn. Thank you so very much for listening to the podcast today. So, we have things we need to get to today. I'm going to unveil my midseason power rankings across the National Football League. I'll give you my takes on what transpired or in places around the NFL, like specifically the Bills and the Chiefs. I'll get into the Cowboys and their disaster. I'll get into the Commanders and their disaster as we go along. But I think the first topic I wanted to discuss in today's podcast, and you make sure you download and subscribe to this podcast. This way you never miss an episode wherever you go. So I think what we saw in the World Series, what was everything. Now, I hinted a couple of weeks ago that I thought the Dodgers were gonna were gonna win the World Series because I think they had the experience, they had the. I mentioned that they had the championship DNA that I thought the Warriors possessed during their golden years in the late 2010s. But this series had so many twists and turns. It was a roller coaster of emotions for the Dodger fan, the Blue Jay fan. So I think we need to look at things from both perspectives, and I think this is more of the Blue Jays blowing it than the Dodgers winning it. And if you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan, I mean, how are you possibly going to get over this loss in your lifetime? Like, I envision people talk that the baseball fan in let's 50 years from now, 2075 is 50 years from now. They are still going to be talking about this loss. Like, everything was there, so that they had they had game 3 won. They had an opportunity to win game 6. So they had opportunity they that everything was there for them to win game 7 on Saturday night. But I mean, if and there are just so many things that needed to go wrong here. But let's go back to game 3, that the Blue Jays overcame a dominant Shohei Ohtani in game 3. Ohtani gives up a couple of bombs, and then the Blue Jays come back and take the lead, neutralize it. Then the Dodgers score runs, tied in the 7th. The game went 18 innings, and Freddie Freeman hit a walk off bomb in the 18th inning. Then the Jays bounce back and win game 4 and 5 in convincing fashion to send the series back to Toronto for game 6. The Dodgers had to win 2 on the road and on in that hostile environment. But game 6 should be is one that bothered me because Dodgers up 3-1 going to the bottom of the ninth. So that runner on first, no one out. Addison Barger hits a missile to left center field. It lands right under the wall. And was ruled a ground rule double, forcing the runners to second and third with nobody out. They bring in Tyler Glass now. Ernie Clement pops out on the first pitch he sees to Freddie Freeman for the first out. Then Andres Jimenez hits a line drive to left field, caught by Kike Hernandez, and then he fires to second, where Miguel Rojas makes a great play to apply the put out on Addison Barger, who was at second base. So he didn't know how that where it was gonna go. Where it was honestly clearly not going to drop, and instead he gets doubled off, and the game was over. And so you go to Game 7. Shohei Ohtani on the mound. So laboring a little bit on the mound early, it gives up a 3-1 bomb to Bo Bichette. Does give the Blue Jays a 3-0 lead, but the Dodgers kept chipping away at the lead. It became 4-3 in the top of the ninth inning. Jeff Hoffman, their closer, on to try and win the World Series. They're 2 outs away from winning the World Series. Finally dethroning the mighty Dodgers, and Miguel freaking Rojas, the unlikeliest of heroes, hits a bomb to left to tie the game. So it's 4-4. But wait, it gets even crazier. Bottom 9, the Jays had the bases loaded, 1 out. So and Isaiah kind of left. I think he came on as a pinch runner at third, and then they with the bases loaded, a grounder to second. Gets the force out of the plate, and then the next batter fly ball left field, and Andy Pages makes a crazy catch, as he was trying to run towards him and trying to avoid colliding with Kike Hernandez in left field. So he makes the catch. Game goes to extras. Top of the 10th, Dodgers had the bases loaded in the 10th. They strand 3. Jays go down, I believe, in order in the last of the 10th. Then you go to the go to the 11th, and Will Smith hits a 2-out home run at the top of the 11th inning to put the Dodgers up 5-4. And then at bottom of the 11th, the Jays had runners at first and third with 1 out. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who had been pitching since 1 out in the bottom of the ninth inning, induces a double play grounder to shortstop Mookie Betts to ensure that they repeat as World Series champions. And like the Jays had so many opportunities to win that game, to win that series, and especially Game 6 and Game 7, and they just couldn't do it. And like, how do you overcome it? This is like, so like the Jays had Toronto sports has been nothing but torture for the last 30 years, except for the Raptors winning the championship the year Kawhi Leonard was on the team, and they tamed the Warriors dynasty with a little bit of luck because of Kevin Durant's injury situation in that series. But the Leafs have tortured the fans so many years with their inability to win in Game 7. They haven't won the Stanley Cup in nearly 60 years. They have not won a Stanley Cup since the league started expanding after 1967. And then you have you have something you just can't get over with Game 7. The Blue Jays hadn't been to the World Series since '93. They had an incredible Game 7 victory against the Mariners to get there. But boy, but the thing about these types of losses is you don't know if you're going to come back. Like, it took the Yankees 8 years to win a World Series after losing in 2001, Mariano Rivera giving up the winning hit to Luis Gonzalez. It took the Cleveland Indians 19 years to get back to the World Series after blowing a ninth inning lead in Game 7 of that World Series against the Marlins. So I mean, it took 18 years for the Red Sox to get back to the World Series after the ball rolled through Buckner's legs. Like, I don't know if the Jays are going to recover from this, and they have some important offseason decisions to make because Bo Bichette is a free agent and he's going to probably demand the contract north of $200 million in total in the complete in the total value. So there is a lot that the Jays fan will just never get over from that series, and this was one of the greatest World Series that I've ever seen. And I would venture to tell you that Game 7 was one of the 3 or 4 greatest games in Major League Baseball history. Like it's up there with Game 7 of 2016 between the Cubs and the Indians. It's up there with Game 6 of 75 where Carlton Fisk waved that ball fair down that left field foul pole right next to the Green Monster. It's up there with the Mets' incredible rally in the 10th inning in Game 6 against Boston. That game, or even Game 7 of the '91 series, where Jack Morris and John Smoltz had put on the greatest pitcher duel in a big spot ever. So that Game 7 of the 2025 World Series is up there with those games. So unbelievable drama. And let's say this about the Dodgers. And look, the Dodgers spent $1 billion to get Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and they were the 2 most important players on the Dodgers' trail to success this year. And both possess championship DNA. So Yamamoto was one of the most unbelievable pitching talents Japan has ever produced. And how about these stats? If you're watching on YouTube, right down below, 3 games, first pitcher since 2001 to do that when Randy Johnson did it for the Diamondbacks. He allowed 2 runs over 17 and 2/3 innings. He pitched a complete game in Game 2. So he pitched 6 solid innings in Game 6. And then he pitched 2 and 2/3 innings of relief in Game 7 to close out the World Series. And it's honestly not a surprise to see this happening. Remember, I picked the Dodgers preseason to win the championship this year. Now, I didn't think it was going to be this dramatic with that. So it helped the Dodgers that they had incredible starting pitching and their starting pitchers for once were all healthy at the same time. When you look at Snell, Glasnow, and then you factor in Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki moving to the bullpen, and then Ohtani finally being able to pitch again after Tommy John surgery that he underwent in 2023. And then of course the investments with Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, but what Andy Pages and Miguel Rojas did will also be noted in there, with Miguel Rojas being the most unlikely postseason hero, hitting what I thought was the most dramatic home run, and one of the most dramatic home runs in baseball history. And for someone who is a light hitting shortstop turned second baseman, his name will be etched forever. On that regard, go back to back, the first team to repeat as World Series champions since the Yankees from 1998 to 2000. And this Dodgers team, did not play its best this season. That they were a better team last year than they were this year. But the thing about about these dynasties, it was that there's that one year where they don't they're not at their peak, but they use the championship DNA and championship and playoff experience to their advantage. When the Chiefs last won their Super Bowl when they beat the 49ers in overtime, that they were not a vintage Chiefs team. Patrick Mahomes had to go on the had to win multiple playoff games on the road to get to the Super Bowl, something he never had to do in any of his previous Super Bowl appearances. And then the following year, all of his 2 playoff games were at Arrowhead to get to the Super Bowl, where they eventually lost to Philadelphia. Even though and you also look so at the Warriors dynasty, that 2022, but was an example for that. They were not the best team in the league that year, but the Warriors won a championship. Steph finally got his Finals MVP. That was great stuff there. And even the Patriots, there was the last year of the last Super Bowl winning team of the Patriots dynasty. They were not a great team. They went 11-5. That was the year they had that they suffered that miracle loss in Miami, where the Dolphins had a perfect a perfect lateral play for the winning touchdown. Yeah, they overcame it, and they made the playoffs. And then they beat Mahomes and the Chiefs in the championship game in the AFC, and beat the Rams in the Super Bowl that year. So each dynasty has that one year where they're not at their peak, but yet somehow win a championship. So incredible stuff right there from the Dodgers, who are once again the champions of the baseball world. I want to get into some of my takes for Week 9 in the NFL before we get into my midseason power rankings. I was awfully impressed by what the Bills did to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think the Bills basically took my advice of just allowing James Cook to run run the ball down their throats, and win that ball game. So James Cook in the win against Kansas City had 27 carries for 114 yards in the victory. And I felt the Chiefs' run defense was weaker than their pass defense, and I very much think that and also Josh Allen had a couple of rushing touchdowns in the victory as well. So you had to give the Bills an awful lot of credit to be able to win that game, and the defense was exceptional. Joey Bosa's fingerprints were over parts of this game, as an example. But the Chiefs somehow made it close despite Patrick Mahomes' worst game as in the regular season as a pro. He was held to 15 and 34 passing, 250 yards, 44% completion percentage, his worst in a single in an individual game in the career of Patrick Mahomes. So you would have to think that if the Chiefs make the playoffs right now, the Chiefs are on the outside looking in. They would be the 8th seed in the AFC, and only the first 7 make it. If the Chiefs wind up in the playoffs, and they're probably going to have to win the division to stamp home what I think could happen for the Chiefs. They got a big game. Their next game is after their bye week next week against the Broncos, which will be I believe it's a Sunday night game, it would be a huge game for the Kansas City Chiefs to win that and pull themselves back into the AFC race. There are a couple of games now behind the Broncos in the AFC West, because the Broncos beat Houston, then Kansas City got punked in Buffalo. So I think it's and I think if it is Bills Chiefs in the playoffs, you would have to think that that Andy Reid is going to make the adjustments needed uh, uh, to get themselves more prepared for what Buffalo has dialed up there. So, that was an excellent win by the Bills. They improved now to 6-2, and they've got Miami coming up on Sunday. Their next meeting, and the game is in Buffalo. So we'll be looking forward to that. Other things that I took away from the NFL week this weekend. I thought I thought the Broncos had the most underrated win of the entire week. That they went into Houston, they beat the Texans, they overcame some great defensive play from the Texans, and found a way to win that game. But Bo Nix hitting it's making some big tough clutch throws in the victory. I think in that victory. So credit to the Broncos. I did not have a great week with my picks. In the NFC North, the Packers lost at home to the Panthers. So that was wild, and the Packers lost their most reliable target, Tucker Kraft, for the season with a torn ACL. So brutal hit there for the Packers, and and we don't know if this Packers team is going to make the playoffs or not. So and like I would that I was planning on leaving Green Bay out of out of my playoff picks preseason before they acquired Micah Parsons, but losing at home to Bryce Young and the Panthers, that's just not acceptable at all there. The Ravens torched the Dolphins 28-6. Lamar Jackson's back. He threw four touchdowns in the game, and Chris Greer wound up losing his job because of it. So that's one down in terms of the sea change for the Dolphins desperately need to make. So you have that. The 49ers got righted. They trounced the Giants. The Giants fall to 2-7 for the third straight year. The Cowboys looked dreadful last night. They lost 27-17, but honestly, it wasn't as close as the score indicated there. And the Commanders, so they're falling apart. They are 3-6. They lost Jaden Daniels to a gruesome arm injury in the fourth quarter, down 38-7. And how on earth did Dan Quinn leave him there? This was why I did not like the Dan Quinn hire. And Jaden Daniels' incredible season last year amassed a lot of areas a lot about what I felt about Dan Quinn. And then they went to the NFC Championship game. They get pummeled by Philadelphia. And then after starting out with the win against the Giants to start the season, they've lost 6 out of 8 since, and now this entire team is falling apart fast. And I think the Commanders are done. Their season is over. And then you look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did during the bye week. You know that they gave up a third round pick to acquire Jalen Phillips, so who might become the best pass rusher at this point. So Howie Roseman strikes again on that one. The Steelers took down the Indianapolis Colts. They forced 6 turnovers on the high-powered Colts offense, and and credit to the Steelers, but they just cannot be or cannot be relying on winning the turnover battle to win your football games, because that's just not going to be a recipe for success should they make the playoffs. So you had good stuff over there. And then on the flip side of the Washington loss, Seattle looked unbelievable, and Seattle has that type of roster that can give the Eagles a run for their money in the playoffs. That Sam Darnold looked great, and the defense was dominant, and that they overwhelmed on both sides of the football. A dominant road win of 3,000 miles away from Seattle. So a lot of great stuff there. There are two other things that I wanted to touch on before I hit the midseason power rankings. One is that LSU finally fired Brian Kelly after 3.5 years as a head coach. He took the buyout of more than $50 million. That Brian Kelly left Notre Dame and went for the money, went for the leisure, and LSU paid a massive price for that. And now the Scott Woodward, so the athletic director, had to resign because of a fall between him and Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry on how the next head coach was going to be picked for LSU. So maybe Jeff Landry brings back Ed Orgeron, but some the but that remains to be seen. And then one other big story that was not able to touch on last week because my schedule outside was so busy that I couldn't even get to a podcast episode last week on the Tuesday. But there was a huge illegal gambling investigation tied to mafia where Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat point guard Terry Rozier, and others were arrested as part of an illegal poker operation on underground, and the FBI announced the investigation a couple of weeks ago, and it was just and you just have to think that the victims have to be still have to be going through the emotions um in there because of what these guys did, and look that and this is such a wrongdoing, and I just hope that the victims are able to get justice for that, and this is an indictment on Adam Silver because the NBA is now so stuffed with funds from the gambling industry that they're just not able to that they're just not able to announce it. So it tells you where the NBA's money is at. So what a disgrace that these guys went through. So anyway, now on to what I want to finish up today's podcast on. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see to the right my midseason power rankings, and I still think the Colts are the best team in the NFL. So that the Colts had a really bad day offensively. They had 6 giveaways, but they still only lost by 7 points. So I think the Colts should be fine. I'm comfortable with the Eagles being at number 2. Because they have the culture and they're the defending champs. Saquon Barkley had a get right game against the Giants, and they acquired maybe a pass rusher that's better than anyone else that they had going into the season. So that's a big plus for Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Rams at 3, Patriots 4, Bills 5, Seahawks 6, Broncos 7. I feel comfortable putting it in that order. So I think you look at that. I did put the Patriots slightly ahead of Buffalo because of the head-to-head win, but nonetheless, it's a win nonetheless. I got the Bucks at 8. I got the Lions at 9. I have the Packers. I have the Lions at not. No, the Lions would have been on that top row had they beaten the Minnesota Vikings last week, but great job by the Vikings to getting back on track. The Packers are at 10 despite the home loss to Carolina. The Chargers are at 11. I had to knock them down because Joe Alt, their other right tackle, had to undergo season-ending surgery yesterday. So that is a brutal hit for the Chargers. And I just think the Chargers are in trouble now. You got the 49ers at 12, the Chiefs at 13. The Jaguars have been a little inconsistent. They barely beat the Raiders. They had to knock down a pass on a 2-point conversion, try to beat the Raiders. It was an entertaining game, but I would like to see Jacksonville be uh, 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 more authoritative in their victory against the Raiders. Got the Bears at 15. The Steelers are going to be at 16 until won't be there because they rely too much on turnovers to win. The Ravens are back. Lamar Jackson instantly. I would have to imagine that this Ravens team is going to go back up because they have an easy schedule in front of them. They still have 2 games left against Pittsburgh, and it's going to be is and I think Baltimore is going to wind up winning the division. You got the Minnesota Vikings at 18, the Panthers at 19, the Cardinals at 20, the Texans are 21 despite their elite defense because their offense has been struggling and CJ Stroud got hurt. So you have that. The Cowboys at 22, like acquisition of Logan Wilson, I just don't think is going to make a difference at all. They earlier today, the Cowboys traded with the Bengals for for Logan Wilson, but as bad as the discipline problem with the Cowboys have on defense, they have the talent problem is bigger than the coaching and discipline problem in my opinion. So and I think Cowboy fans are gonna have to realize that but it's because I think if they're blaming this solely on Eberflus, I just think they're living in a bubble of alternative reality. Commanders are 23. They're left for dead. The Falcons inconsistent again. They're 24. The Bengals at 25. The Giants at 26. I got the Raiders at 27. The Miami at 28. Cleveland 29. I got the Jets at 30. And the Browns play the Jets this week at MetLife. I mean, how is that going to transpire? And then round out the power rankings with the Saints at 31 and the Titans at 32 with an NFL worst record of 1-8. So that's going to do it for this edition of Hooked on Sports. Thank you so very much for listening. I will talk to you again on Thursday for the preview for Week 10 in the NFL. So until then, this is John Flynn saying so long. We'll be back here on the podcast on Thursday. So long, everybody, and take care.